This video is called Stop Scaring Your Parents. Congratulations. Maybe you just won this 350 horsepower Cobb-tuned Mazda 3 with a big intercooler and more boost than it should be making. Don't scare your parents. Don't scare your girlfriend. Don't scare your object of your affection. Don't scare someone you're simping over. No one likes that. Congratulations, you just have now a car that's making real power. You want to show it off. I understand that. Cars that have been woken up are wondrous machines. They're joyous, they make these great noises, and people look at you. Isn't that enough? No, it isn't. Do you want to be feared? Is that it? Do you want to be seen as capable? Do you want to bask in the thought that you're now controlling someone else's life? Maybe you're going to try to get YouTube rich and make a video where you're there with your mom and you're going to like shift into second gear and then do this. See, I almost missed third again because I'm looking at this, I'm looking at that, I'm looking at the guy behind me. You know who that impresses? People who don't have their license yet. That's who that impresses. Your girlfriend or boyfriend or partner just liked you less for doing that. It's a sign of immaturity. And that's a rough thing in car culture because we're all kids. We're this slice of the slice of our own individual generations that never really grew up. I know people in their 70s who are still doing burnouts and getting scolded by cops. God love them. I don't really drive that fast except when you see me do it. But there's a difference between youthful enthusiasm and narcissistic behavior. And scaring your parents, scaring your lover or lover-to-be or simpy is narcissistic. Don't do it. There's a time and place for ripping big boost on the streets, and that's when you see someone else who's kind of in your bracket. I had that moment with this car. I was driving back from the hospital. Oh, and by the way, people who follow me on Twitter, good news, my right hand isn't broken. And I had the MRI, and they looked at it and said, well, there's evidence that there was a tear. It doesn't look like a major tear. So instead of, I don't think we need to talk about surgery right now. Let's just give you steroids. And of course, they never say steroids, but it's steroids. Cortisone, cortical steroids. You see, lowered cars still took railroad tracks just fine. This car looks slow, but it's got still some usable ground clearance. So I know this, if it can handle Pennsylvania, and I haven't scraped with it yet, so I think you'll be fine. Just remember when there's trees fell on the ground, you're gonna have to dodge them instead of running over them. What were we talking about? Something about railroad tracks and don't scare your parents and oh, my hand, right? Yeah, steroids. I'm getting away from the car for a second, but telling Tony Airlines that, hey, yeah, I got roids. I just had a bunch of emojis of syringes. Yeah, I got roids. And he's like, are you serious? You just took steroids? And I'm like, yeah. It's like, they permitted that? I'm like, dude, this happens all the time. This is a side tangent, but steroids are quite useful. They're useful in healing. They're useful to repair muscle tissue. They speed up the healing process and recovery process. That's pretty much the entire reason why professional athletes take them on the down low. So you're not out of the game. You can keep going. Of course, then you abuse them and all that other stuff, but in terms of like helping ligaments heal, steroids, fantastic. Anyway, what were we talking about? Don't scare your parents. I'm driving to my parents right now. Go see if they have some Christmas lights they're not going to use this year before I go out and buy some new ones. I think this is a much better giveaway car. Well, it's a much more reasonable giveaway car than that BMW we just did. That thing I was worried about because it was rear-wheel drive and it was making more power than the DSC could handle. And that thing, DSC would freak out when you went full boost for too long. This Mazda is like, hey, you take Cobb in there. Cobb takes the ECU by the throat of the neck and goes, "You're doing what I tell you." And it's like, all right, I'm a bottom anyway. So only in the wet has the traction control ever kicked back on me. And, okay, you can double clutch down in this pretty easy with this car. All you gotta do is stab it a little bit. But this is gonna do something that BMW never did, which is torque steer like a motherfucker, because it's gonna turn left. It's gonna turn left all the time. I mean, it's neat, but it's that squirreliness when you get on it. Oh, now it turned right. Excuse me, it turned right. Why did it turn left last time? And actually, cool it down right here, because right about here is where I punted a deer with Goldie. Seriously, I hit a deer with Goldie, and all it did was just get some, like, spit on the bumper. And that little Subaru was tough, man. I slowed down. I think I hit the deer maybe going 8 miles an hour. I got on the brakes hard. But here's that weird turn. There it pulled to the right again. Alright. So, hey there, it fluttered. So yes, it has a blow-off valve on it with the little trumpet on the end, because it's not enough that you vent to atmosphere. You have to let everybody know that you vent from atmosphere. I was going to do a bit of video on this where we put the microphone in the engine bay like we did with the other one. But that big hood scoop in the front just, is letting cold air in. So it would probably just be wind noise if I put the microphone in the engine bay. Oh, this is gonna be a lot of fun. There are two things I wouldn't have done if I would have done this build myself. Number one is I wouldn't, of course, have gone so low with the suspension. Although it's working, I wouldn't have gone so low. But I do appreciate the RX wheels that are on this. The wheels that are on this are from an RX-8. Cool. Keep it in the family. I also wouldn't have done polyurethane motor mounts. Now, maybe the previous owner had aspirations of making this into a good autocross car, which I agree. This is a fantastic. Mazda 3 is a great autocross platform. Many people use them, and polyurethane motor mounts will add rigidity. But as far as for street use, when you get on it and it starts pulling, the vibrations from the engine, you feel it throughout the entire car. Rubber motor mounts are there for a reason. They're to keep all the plastics and everything inside the car from resonating. So I understand this handle's really nice. Yay. Actually, this is probably the most that I've wrench this thing around. There is the suspension. I think half of it is like the body kit. This is the stock body kit though, so there is some body roll here, which is good. So maybe a lot of the rigidity that I'm feeling is coming from those poly motor mounts. Gosh, this really is a car channel. We could spend the entire time talking about polyurethane motor mounts and the benefits and the things. I think people do poly motor mounts is because you want to keep the interior of the car. You don't want to put a brace across the rear strut towers, and maybe you don't have the room in the engine bay to put a strut tower brace there. We have another car we're going to be reviewing that does have both of those, and they work very, very well. I don't want to spoil that one for you. So maybe people go polyurethane motor mounts, unless the bigger intercooler, and maybe they were pressed for space with the different piping that's in here, and they really couldn't have that engine move. So they needed to have polys in there to keep the engine from flexing against the new performance parts that are in the engine. Haven't thought about that.